Hello, this BTEC Sport and Exercise Science video is in Unit 2 Functional Anatomy, and it's a very short video but an important one that will look at the two large long answer questions in your exam paper, question 11 and question 12. They're the last two questions and they gain you the most marks. Now let's have a look at them. So question 11 on the left is a movement analysis question. So it gives you an image of an athlete doing something. It typically will give you some written text to describe it. And then it specifically phrases the question in this way, and it's always phrased in this way. So it says, analyze how the axial and appendicular skeleton allows the range of movement necessary at the shoulder, trunk. The trunk means the sort of back and wrist to achieve the position from standing to forward bend. So I've highlighted in red, I guess, the key aspects to this. The rest of the phrasing, as I said, is always the same. This particular question tells you that you will need to apply knowledge about the axial and appendicular skeleton because the three joints it's asking you to write about will be from within both of those. Sometimes questions just ask you about the appendicular skeleton, and the reason that is because the three joints are all in the appendicular skeleton. So hopefully you would recognise here that the trunk is part of the axial skeleton, and that's why it has to have both in this part of the question. So it's about the skeleton, it's about the sections of the skeleton, and it gives you clues which one's in the question. It's about analysing three joints, and it will always be three joints. And if you write about any other joint, it's irrelevant and won't gain you any marks. So you must analyse the shoulder, the trunk, and the wrist in this particular example. And again, it will always give you a from position to a different position, and this happens to be a forward bend. You can see up here that this question 11, this movement analysis, is worth 8 marks. Okay, and also it's only included any information about the skeleton, so it's just about the skeleton. Question 12, on the other hand, is similar but different. So it's similar in that you will need to incorporate exactly the same sort of skeletal system knowledge in this question, but this question is a movement analysis earning you 14 marks, and the reason you have to earn extra marks is because within question 12, not only do you discuss or analyse skeletal system information, but you also have to analyse muscular system information. So this requires more to earn more marks. But again, you can see similarities. It gives you a picture, gives you a movement. It always gives you a little bit of text to describe what's going on, and they want you to look at the right leg, which is straight here, which is stepping up bent here, and they want you to look at the left arm, which is straight here and which is bent there. So it's given you all the clues to direct you what it wants you to look at. And the text of the question says, analyse the required movement. So the fact that they're talking about the required movement means it wants muscular and skeletal content. Again, though, it's given you three joints, the left elbow, the right hip, and the right knee. Don't write about the left knee, don't write about the right elbow. It's irrelevant to this question, purely those three that it's asked for. And then, of course, it goes from a position to another position. So from preparation, which is where they're stood on the floor, to execution, where they've done the step up. They're basically asking you to analyse the step up. Okay. So let's just break down bit by bit to make it absolutely clear what the variations are and what the similarities are between question 11 requirements, question 12 requirements. And I'll explain why this is so important. So question 11 is skeletal system only. It always asks you about the appendicular skeleton, but sometimes some of the joints will be part of the axial skeleton. So obviously, a lot of the joints that allow us to move in sport are within the appendicular skeleton, but the back in particular, the trunk, the vertebral column is part of the axial skeleton. Head movements might be part of it too. So you have to interpret the question is what I'm saying. Always that will be there, sometimes that will be there. It's worth 8 marks. I was going to say only. It's the second highest question in the paper, so it's worth 8 marks. And it will be levels marked, and I'll show you what that means later. It means every good point you make, it doesn't mean you get a tick and a mark. It means the examiner will read the whole answer, will gauge what level you're writing and answering at, and then from within that level they'll give you a mark. So it's a bit different from all the other short answer questions, but we'll look at that later. And remember, you always have an image which has one change in position. What it doesn't want you to do is, let me just go back actually, there we are. It doesn't want you to analyse this position and then add another analysis of this position. It wants you to analyse the movement from to, so just the one movement. Same here, from to, the step up, not analyse what they're doing here and then analyse what they're doing here. It should just be one analysis of the movement itself. And always there will be 3 joints that have been specified in the question that you must analyse. You must analyse all 3 of them. So that's question 11. Question 12 then is both muscular and skeletal system to earn you the more marks, remember. It's 14 marks to account for that. It also is levels marked, so it's not well done, you've written a correct thing, tick, you get a mark, it's levels marked. It will always have an image of requiring one movement to be analysed, the movement from the preparation to the execution phase. And again, you will only ever be asked to analyse 3 joints. They will specify which limb, which joint they want you to do, and you must do those that they have chosen. So that hopefully clarifies the difference between the 2. We'll start off working on question 11 and get that brilliant, and then we'll work on question 12 when we've done some muscular system work. Now, why make such a fuss about this? Obviously, they earn you the most marks in the paper. But the great thing about these questions is they are highly predictable. Again, let me just pop back. They're highly predictable in that they are always phrased like this, and they always have an image. What we don't know is which 3 joints they're going to ask you to analyse or what movement they're going to give you, but the rest of it is predictable, the sort of content that they want. There's only a certain number of joints they can ask you about, and if we can get good at those, it will really help you, and you can get absolutely high marks in these questions by practice, and by knowing your skeletal and muscular system content. And this is evidence just to show, I think, again, these are the last 3 papers that our students have sat. Question 11, question 12, question 11, question 12, 11 and 12. And it shows you that out of 8, our average grade was 7.69. Our average grade out of 14 was 11.5, 6.92, 11.1. Can you see that we are, pushing this, this is great. Our question 14's our average grade was 13 1/3, which is 40% above the sort of national average answer. Now, this is not to sort of beef us up. It is purely to say, by drilling and practicing and learning these 2 questions, we can get really great marks on something that is fairly predictable, and that can really help with your overall grade. So that's why we're going to really learn them from the start.